My name is Emily Carter. I'm 32 years old, and by the time my cousin lifted her wine glass during my grandmother's birthday dinner in Charleston, South Carolina, I already knew I was about to become the evening's favorite joke. So, Madison said with a grin that had embarrassed me more times than I could count. 32, still single. Are we finally accepting that no man is ever going to marry you? The room erupted in laughter. My aunt nearly spilled her drink. My younger cousins smirked. Even my mother forced a smile before quietly looking down at her plate, pretending she hadn't heard it. Madison wasn't finished. I mean, maybe Emily's just too picky, she continued. Or maybe every guy figures out what we already know. More laughter. I had spent years becoming the quiet one in this family, the dependable daughter, the successful architect who always showed up when someone needed help moving, reviewing contracts, or fixing problems nobody else wanted to solve. But somehow none of that mattered. Around my relatives, my relationship status was always considered my greatest achievement, or my greatest failure. I slowly placed my fork beside my plate. You don't have to worry about me, I said calmly. Madison raised an eyebrow. Oh? I looked around the table, meeting every pair of curious eyes. The right man already chose me. The laughter faded. Madison folded her arms. So, where is he? She asked. Imaginary boyfriends don't count. Before I could answer, knock, knock, knock. 3 slow knocks echoed through the front door. Every conversation stopped. My grandmother frowned. Were we expecting someone? Nobody answered. Madison laughed again. Please don't tell me you hired someone to save you from this conversation. I didn't smile. I didn't invite him, I said quietly. He came because I finally told him tonight was the night. Confused faces surrounded the table. My father stood and walked toward the front entrance. As he reached for the doorknob, my heartbeat remained perfectly steady, because unlike everyone else in that room, I already knew exactly who was standing on the other side of that door. What none of them knew was that I had spent the last 2 years protecting one part of my life from becoming another source of family gossip. And before this night was over, my cousin would discover that mocking my loneliness had been the biggest mistake she had ever made. The front door opened, and every eye in the dining room followed my father as he stepped aside. A man in a charcoal overcoat stood on the porch, holding a small gift box wrapped in deep blue paper. Snowflakes rested on his shoulders, melting under the warm glow of the porch light. He smiled the moment our eyes met. There you are, he said. My cousin's confident expression disappeared. Who is that? She whispered. The man walked inside, removed his gloves, and handed the gift to my grandmother. Happy birthday, Mrs. Carter, he said warmly. I'm sorry I'm late. Emily told me your homemade pecan pie is worth driving 3 hours for. Grandma blinked in surprise before accepting the box. Thank you. But I'm afraid we've never met. He nodded politely. No, ma'am. That was Emily's decision. Then he turned toward me. I hope you don't mind that I came anyway. I asked you to wait until tonight, I replied with a smile. I guess you finally got tired of waiting. He laughed softly. I did. The room was silent. Madison looked back and forth between us. So, are you two dating? The man reached into his coat pocket. Instead of answering, he pulled out a simple silver chain. Hanging from it was a wedding ring. He held it in his hand before looking at me. You forgot this after our anniversary trip. My mother's fork slipped from her fingers. My aunt gasped. Madison stared at the ring as if her mind refused to accept what she was seeing. I unclasped the chain around my neck and revealed an identical ring hidden beneath my sweater. I wear mine during work because construction sites don't allow jewelry, I said. The man smiled. I've been trying to convince her to wear it normally. I laughed. Old habits. My father looked completely confused. Emily, he struggled to find the words. What exactly is going on? I took a slow breath. My name is still Emily Carter, I said. But for the last 2 years, I've also been Emily Carter Hayes. The silence that followed was heavier than anything Madison had said all evening. She looked at the rings, then at him, then back at me. You're married. I nodded. For 2 years. Madison shook her head. That's impossible. I met her eyes without raising my voice. No. The impossible part isn't that I got married. I glanced toward the stack of redevelopment documents sitting on the dining room sideboard. It's that none of you realized. Your biggest business. Deal has been depending on my husband. For the last 6 months. The room fell completely silent. Madison's face lost every trace of confidence. What business deal? My uncle asked, looking around the table. I walked to the sideboard and picked up the blue presentation binder that had been sitting there all evening. My father had proudly shown it to everyone before dinner, calling it the opportunity that would save Carter Development Group. I placed it on the table. This one. My husband, Daniel Hayes, didn't touch it. Instead, he looked at my father. Mr. Carter, before tonight, I hoped this was all a misunderstanding. My father frowned. What are you talking about? I slowly opened the binder to the executive summary. Halfway down the page, a familiar signature appeared beneath the heading. Lead Environmental Design Consultant, Emily Carter. I turned the binder so everyone could see it. I never signed this. My mother's expression changed instantly. Madison leaned forward. It was just a draft. I looked directly at her. You submitted it to Hayes Urban Renewal 3 weeks ago. No one spoke. Daniel finally stepped closer. Our legal department contacted Emily to verify several technical reports included in your proposal. He paused. She had never seen the final document. I flipped another page. Every sustainability study, every energy efficiency projection, every environmental impact report, they were mine. I had prepared those reports nearly 2 years earlier for a nonprofit housing initiative in Savannah, Georgia. That project had been canceled, but every document remained protected under my consulting agreement. Someone had removed my name, copied my research, and inserted it into Carter Development Group's investment proposal. Without my permission. My father looked stunned. Emily, I didn't know. I believe you, I answered honestly. Then I looked at Madison. But someone did. She folded her arms. You've helped the family before. Helping isn't permanent permission. You would have agreed if we'd asked. You never asked. Daniel opened another folder he had carried inside. Our compliance team also discovered something else. He placed several printed emails on the table. These messages state that Emily had officially joined Carter Development Group as a senior partner. My mother grabbed the papers. That's not possible. It isn't, Daniel replied calmly. Because Emily has never worked for your company. Madison's voice became sharp. So now you're choosing your husband over your family? I looked at her for several seconds before answering. No, I'm choosing the truth over the lies that this family kept, expecting me to protect. No one said a word. The dining room that had echoed with laughter less than an hour earlier now felt unbearably quiet. My father slowly lowered himself into his chair, staring at the proposal as though he were seeing it for the first time. Madison, he said quietly, tell me this isn't true. She didn't answer. Instead, she looked at me. You really planned this? She asked bitterly. You waited until everyone was here to embarrass me. I shook my head. No. You embarrassed yourself the moment you decided my name was something you could borrow. Daniel reached for my hand but let me speak. My mother finally broke the silence. Emily, if mistakes were made, we'll fix them. We're family. I smiled sadly. That's exactly what you've always said. When Madison mocked me, you said she was joking. When she took credit for my work, you asked me to keep the peace. When she crossed every boundary I had, you called me too sensitive. I took a slow breath. But tonight, the peace you wanted depended on another lie. No one could argue with that. Daniel placed one final envelope on the table. Our legal department has no intention of filing a lawsuit, he said calmly. Provided every unauthorized document is withdrawn immediately, Emily's name is removed from every proposal, and the investment committee receives a full correction. My father nodded, his voice barely audible. It will be done. For the first time that evening, he looked at me instead of the business. I'm sorry, Emily. I should have protected you. Those were the words I had waited years to hear. Madison looked down at the table. I never thought it would go this far, she whispered. I met her eyes. It went this far the first time everyone laughed and nobody stopped you. She had no answer. Daniel picked up our coats. As we walked toward the front door, my grandmother gently touched my arm. I'm proud of you, she whispered. Not because I had married a successful man, not because I had exposed the truth, but because for the first time in my life, I had chosen to protect myself. Outside, snow covered the quiet street. Daniel smiled as he opened the passenger door. You okay? I looked back at the house one last time before getting into the car. Yes, I said. They thought my story was about a woman no one would ever marry. I fastened my seatbelt and smiled. It was actually about a woman who finally learned that self-respect is worth more than anyone's approval. And as we drove away, I realized something unexpected. Walking away from the people who refused to value me wasn't the ending of my story. It was the beginning of the life I should have chosen years ago.